Hi everyone, welcome back to a new post today, and let's continue with the current affairs from the prelims perspective for the upcoming UPSC mains prelims examination 2024. And I had stopped at the Ayushman Bharat health centers. So let's continue with the other most important issues for today. And in first coming up is Chandrayaan 3 Odyssey. So that is the third lunar odyssey that is of ISRO, and it is a successor to Chandrayaan 2. So this was launched using the LV-M3 rocket, which we already spoke about. And the mission objectives are very important to remember. So to demonstrate safe and soft landing on the lunar surface, to demonstrate rover roving over the moon, and to construct and to conduct in situ experiments on the lunar surface. So the lander payloads are different from the rover payloads. So you have the lander payloads such as the Chaste or the Chandra surface thermophysical experiment. You need to know a little bit details about these and why exactly it is being used to measure the thermal conductivity and temperature of the surrounding. Then instrument for lunar seismic activity, or ILSA, for measuring the seismicity around the landing site where the rover puts its foot on the moon. And the Langmuir probe, that is to estimate the plasma density and its variations as well. A passive laser reflector, a retro reflector array from NASA was accommodated in this lunar laser ranging studies. And the rover payloads are the alpha particle X-ray spectrometer and the laser induced breakdown spectroscope for deriving elemental composition in the vicinity of the landing site. And next coming up is, we have already spoken a brief about India and France cooperation. So they are celebrating 25 years of anniversary of diplomatic relations between India and France. And they also launched, when Prime Minister was there for the Bastille Day celebrations, we had the three wings of the Indian Defence Forces participating in the Bastille Day celebration. So they decided to co-develop an engine now. So taking the cooperation to another level, they decided to extend a co-development of aeronautical defense. They decided in aeronautical defense cooperation for co-development of the combat aircraft engine and also an engine for the Indian multi-role helicopter, which is being designed and developed by the HAL. They have also decided on advanced and small reactors and finalization of a Earth observation satellite as well. The agreement was signed between HAL and Safran, which is a helicopter engine company in France. Another highlight of the visit of the Prime Minister to France for the Bastille Day celebration was Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the first Prime Minister to be conferred the Grand Cross of Legion Honor, which is France's highest civilian and military honor given, and he joins the League of Nelson Mandela, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and many others. Prime Minister was the chief guest for the Bastille Day celebrations, and India decided to set up a technical office of DRDO at the Embassy of India in France. And INS Chennai was there during the Bastille Day celebrations. It is an indigenously designed and developed guided missile destroyer that participated in the celebrations as well. The Indian Army Regiment from the Punjab Regiment and the Rajputana Rifles, Indian Navy and the Air Force participated in the Bastille Day. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted a sandalwood sitar, now a model, to the French President Emmanuel Macron. And the Horizon 2047 was signed between the two countries commemorating 25th anniversary of India and France, which lays the roadmap for the bilateral relation up to 2047. And Safran, let me remind you, is a French engine manufacturer. The MOU was also signed between Moscow Dock Limited and the Naval Group for construction of three additional submarines under the P-75 program. And the next important issue is East Asia Summit was held in Jakarta alongside the ASEAN Summit at Jakarta. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs Jaishankar met the Chinese Foreign Minister and they raised the outstanding issues regarding the border. There is still no complete disengagement. We have Dipsang and Demchok still to be disengaged between India and China, and only 5 regions have been disengaged. Now, the East Asia is a unique summit or a grouping which consists of 18 countries in the Asia Pacific region, and it was formed with the objective of regional peace, security and prosperity. It has evolved as a forum for strategic dialogue and cooperation on political, security and economic issues of common regional concern, and it was established in 2005. It plays a very important important role in Asia Pacific region. The membership of the East Asian consists of the 10 ASEAN members, that is Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines and Vietnam, and Australia, China, India, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Russia Federation and USA. It is in East Asia Summit is an initiative of ASEAN and is based on the premise of centrality of ASEAN. And the 18th summit was held in Jakarta, 19th is going to be held in Laos, and the 17th was held in Cambodia. And the East Asia Summit meetings held annually are always held after the ASEAN ministers leaders meeting and play a very important role in the regional architecture of Asia Pacific. The next most important is a terminology that was used during the G20 meetings, and this term was used during the G20 conference on crime and security, which was held in Gurugram. It is called as non-fungible tokens. Now, what are non-fungible tokens? They are assets that have been tokenized via a blockchain, the same technology that is used for your cryptocurrency. Now, a non-fungible token is a unique digital identifier that is recorded on the blockchain and is used to certify ownership and authenticity. So, this was discussed during the G20 conference on crime and security in Gurugram, and at this conference, the risk associated with the misuse of AI, especially non-fungible tokens, was discussed, and they were planning to deal with it. And the next most important issue is a cheetah in Kuno died, and so let's speak about Project Cheetah. You need to know about the mission objectives, especially of Project Cheetah. It is the world's first intercontinental wildlife translocation project, and decades after the Asiatic cheetah was extinct in India. So Kuno is located in MP, and the main nodal ministry that is implementing this project is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now it is the world's fastest land animal, and finally it is back into India after 75 years after going locally extinct from the country due to various regions. So the first ever intercontinental wildlife translocation, and decades after extinction of the Asiatic counterpart of India, 8 African cheetahs, Acinonyx jubatus from Namibia, were translocated to the Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh, and subsequently 12 cheetahs will come from South Africa. So they are coming from both Namibia and South Africa and are released into the Kuno National Park in February 2003. Now, the other alternative sites that were chosen for this Project Cheetah were Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary and also Naura Dehi Wildlife Sanctuary. So find out where these are, and the cheetahs fulfill a unique ecological role. They play a very important role in grassland conservation especially, and one of the reasons why Kuno was selected because of the huge nature of grassland which is found in this park, which is very conducive to the cheetah, which needs a large space to survive, and they have a very unique ecological role within the carnivorous hierarchy, and their restoration is expected to enhance the ecosystem health, especially with regard to grasslands in India. They are also going to benefit India's broader conservation goals by improving the general protection, ecotourism in the regions as well. And the next most important issue is with regard to, I will say, number 6 point, the sixth one for this session is due to intense flooding of Yamuna, there were demands by the farmers now to declare floods and rains as a natural calamity. Now, why is this demand being asked for? And there was a umbrella organization called as a Samyukt Kisan Morcha, which called for declaring floods because there was a lot of floods in North India because of heavy rainfalls, and Yamuna was in spate, and declaring floods and rains as national calamity, was the demand. So there is no provision, executive or legal, to declare a natural calamity as a national calamity. The existing guidelines of the State Disaster Response Fund and the National Disaster Response Fund do not declare a disaster as a national calamity. Earlier attempts in this direction were that the 10th Finance Commission during 1995-2000 examined the proposal that a disaster is termed as a national calamity of rarest severity if it affects 1/3 of the population of the state. Now, the panel anyway did not define the calamity of rare severity, but stated that the calamity of rare severity should be necessarily have to be adjudged on a case-by-case basis by taking into account, number 1, the intensity and the magnitude of the calamity, number 2, the level of assistance that is needed, number 3, the capacity of the state to tackle the problem, And number 4 is alternatives and flexibilities that are available within the plans to provide succor and relief, etc. And in 2001, the National Committee on Disaster Management, under the chairmanship of the then Prime Minister, mandated to look into the parameters that need to define a national calamity. So we still do not have a specific definition for this. Now, whenever a calamity is declared of the rarest severity or severe nature, support to the state is provided from the national level, and this is the reason why they have been demanding to include flood and rains as national calamity. The center considers additional assistance in the form of NDRF. The calamity relief fund is set up, and the corpus is shared 3:1, where the center provides 3 parts and the state provides 1 part to the fund. When the resources are inadequate, additional assistance is also provided to the National Calamity Contingency Fund, which is funded 100% by the center, and relief in the repayment of loans or grant of fresh loans to the persons affected by concessional terms are also considered. So these are the benefits if a disaster or a national calamity is coming under a definition of a national calamity. And maybe because of these reasons, that is why for the compensation for the funds and also for adequate assistance to be availed, there was a demand to include floods and rains as a national calamity. Now, Prime Minister attended the ASEAN summit. I told you it was held in Jakarta, and they decided an important decision was taken up during this to open an embassy in Timor. Now, Timor joined ASEAN in 2022. Now, the Indian ASEAN summit is the first summit which was held in 2023 after the elevation of India and ASEAN to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2022. And the 8th most important issue is with regard to Prime Minister's visit to UAE. So from France, he went directly to UAE, and there an important decision was taken and an MOU was signed between the RBI and the Central Bank of UAE. They decided to carry out cross-border transactions in local currencies, that is in rupee and in dirham. Now, another MOU was also signed to provide payments, link of payment and messaging systems, which is related to banking as well. Cooperation is also included in the mutual acceptance of domestic card schemes by interlinking the national card switches as well, so that they can use their cards, debit and credit cards, in each other's country. Ties with UAE have been elevated to comprehensive strategic partnership. In February 2022, India became the first country with which UAE signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, and the bilateral trade has increased approximately 15% since the entry came into force. And India and UAE are a part of I2U2 and also the UAE-France-India Trilateral Cooperation Initiative. They signed an MOU for establishing Indian Institute of Technology of Delhi, IIT Delhi, in Abu Dhabi, and the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority is setting up its presence in the gift city of Gandhinagar in Gujarat. And at number 9 is the GST Council important decision to impose a uniform tax of 28% GST on online money gaming, casinos and horse racing. This has definitely welcomed, many people have welcomed the decision, but there was a backlash even from these companies who run these this domain of the market. So it was said that the tax would be applicable upon the face value of the chips purchased. For example, if a person goes to a casino and wants to purchase 1,000 chips, so the GST is imposed on 1,000 chips that are purchased, and not the money that he wins from using these 1,000 chips. So if he wins 300 or 400 on these 1,000 chips and he's gaining 1,300, the GST will not be applicable on 1,300, but it will be on the face value of the chips that is purchased at the casino, that is the 1,000 chips that he purchased. On the full value of the bets and on the full value of the bets placed with the bookmaker or a totalizer in case of horse racing, and on the full value of the bets placed in case of online gaming. Later on August 2nd, the Council also recommended amendments to the Central GST and the IGST Acts to clarify taxation of supplies to casino, horse racing and online gaming. So this called in for amendments of the GST Acts. It also recommended inserting specific provisions into the IGST Act for liability to pay the GST, and at the same time recommendation was made to the states to amend the GST laws for the new tax to kick in. So it is the state's prerogative to make changes so that they can, because gambling and these types of games are under the state list, and therefore the state has to make the amendments to the state GST laws. Now, at number 10 is the government has set up a new panel to review all the NSO data. So the NSO gives important data regarding the data sets like the periodic labor survey. The NSO functions under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, annual survey of the industries, index of industrial production and economic census as well. And so now the government has set up a new panel to review this data of the NSO, which functions under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. The existing committee is called as the Standing Committee of Economic Statistics, that was set up in 2019, and the Statistics Ministry has said that a new standing committee on statistics, that is SCOS, will be set up with a broader mandate to review the framework and also the results of all the surveys conducted under the aegis of the National Statistical Office. Now the SCOS, which is the new body that is the Standing Committee on Statistics, will have an enhanced term of reference via the vis-a-vis the SCES, that is the Statistical Committee on Economic Statistics, to encourage more coverage. It has 10 more members and also 4 official, non-official members as well. The panel can set up 16 more members by the order of the Ministry of Statistics. And mainly there is a wider mandate to the Standing Committee of Statistics in comparison to the Standing Committee of Economic Statistics. While the Standing Committee of Economic Statistics was mandated only to review the framework for economic indicators pertaining to industrial sector, service sector and labor force statistics, the purview was limited to the periodic labor force survey, the annual surveys of industry and the index of industrial production and economic census. Now this body will have a wider mandate. And at number 11 is a global minimum tax for multinationals that India has spoken about at the G20 at a summit. So India, US and other 140 countries now are close to reaching an agreement to overhaul the global taxation norm on multinational paying taxes wherever they operate. Most of the multinationals like Google, Facebook, Meta, etc., you name them, operate the businesses in India, enabling Indian and foreign companies to reach crores of Indian through their online platforms and to sell their products, thereby generating revenues in thousands of crores. The multinational corporations, however, pass through the GST law while paying the transaction tax wherever available. However, they are not liable to pay income tax because their profits their profits are taxed only at their headquarters and not in the countries in which they operate. This gives them an edge over the other companies which operate in the country, which also have to pay income tax and also have to pay the GST as well. And therefore, consequently, the Indian government and many other countries are losing the tax revenue despite many multinational corporations benefiting from the Indian society and various other countries as well. Now, a typical Indian corporation established in India is subjected to both GST and income tax, as I told you. This gives the multinational corporations an unwarranted advantage over the local companies. Now, in recent years, the government is being considered for advocating a global minimum tax of 15% regardless of where the company's headquarters are located, plus an additional tax of 25% excess profits for those who fall below a certain global revenue and profit percentage. And at number 12 is lightning cannot be called as a natural disaster, says the centre. So the union government is not in favour of declaring lightning as a natural disaster, as deaths caused by it can be avoided through education and awareness. And states such as Bihar and West Bengal have many deaths because of lightning, and they have demanded to be covered under a natural disaster. The victims will be entitled, as previously spoken about, with a compensation from the state disaster response fund once that is notified. As much as 75% of the funds are contributed by the centre to the state disaster response fund. According to the present norm, cyclone, drought, earthquake, fire, flood, tsunami, hailstorm, landslide, avalanche, cloudburst, pest attack, frost, cold waves are considered as disasters that are covered under the State Disaster Response Fund. And according to the presentation given by the IMD at the National Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction Conference in March, the frequency of lightning was much more in the northeastern states and in West Bengal, Sikkim, Jharkhand, Odisha, Bihar, but the number of deaths are higher in central India. And at number 13 is Nomadic Elephant 23, which is a bilateral exercise between India and Mongolia. The major point that you need to remember, it is an alternative annual exercise that is held once in India and once in Mongolia. So this time it was held in Ulaanbaatar, and this is an annual training exercise that is conducted by India and Mongolia alternatively. The primary theme is to exercise counter-terrorism operation in mountainous areas under the mandate of the UN. And PSLV C56 56 was launched off with 7 satellites. I didn't complete this, but you can take this as a task to find out which are the satellites that were launched on board of the PSLV C-56, which used only the core or part of the PSLV for this mission. And the other one at the number 15 is UK formally signed up a Trans-Pacific Trade Bloc. So it is called as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Cooperation. And United Kingdom became the first new member and the first European nation to join the Trans-Pacific Partnership since it was created in 2018. Now the CPTPP, as it is called, comprises UK's fellow G7 members, Canada, Japan, along with Australia, New Zealand, Brunei, Chile, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam. It has been seen as a bulwark against Chinese dominance in the region. And the CPTPP is also called as TP11 or TPP11. It is a trade agreement between the said countries, and it has evolved from the Trans-Pacific Partnership that was never ratified due to the withdrawal of United States, and it was signed. The CPTPP was signed in 2018 in Santiago, Chile. And at number 16 is Niti Aayog report on multi-dimensional poverty index, a review report of 2023, which was released by the Niti Aayog. Now the Niti Aayog says that almost 13.5 crore people are out of the poverty in India. So some of the highlights given by this organization are, it says that rural areas witnessed a faster decline compared to the urban areas. Poverty declined from 32.59% to 19%, and in the same time, poverty declined in urban areas from 8% to 5.27%. India is on a track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals of 1.2, which says that reducing multidimensional poverty by at least half by 2030. Uttar Pradesh registered a highest decline in the number of poor with 3.43, followed by Bihar and Madhya Pradesh. And the reported states with fastest reduction in the multidimensional poor was observed in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha and Rajasthan, and it was based on the National Family Health Survey of 2019-21 and 2015 and 16. This is the second edition of the report that was released, and it is based on the baseline report of 2021. It is based on 12 indicators like nutrition, child and adolescent mortality, maternal health, years of schooling, attendance, cooking, fuel, sanitation, drinking water, electricity, housing, assets, banking account. Marked improvement is witnessed in all these states and all the 12 indicators. And at number 17 is India and US have now decided have signed an agreement called as a Cultural Property Agreement, where US has decided to send back major artifacts brought in illegally into the country back to India, and this base agreement forms the basis for recently repatriation of many of the cultural artifacts of India back to India, and almost 105 artifacts were sent back to India very recently. And I think I've completed the session here, so I hope this was really helpful to you all. Please do not forget to comment and share your views on this, and also like, share and subscribe, and I shall see you again in my next post. I think that will be the second last of the month of July. So I shall see you in the next post, and until then, it's very happy learning.